Welcome to my channel tonight. I am going to talk about the stories that started at 13 years of age, and I was different than anybody else as far as 13 years old. I started riding a bike, and there was a gentleman in our territory that he was a champion rider, and I looked at him and I said, hey, I want to be like him. So I started riding my bike and going after school to a little bit distance and then come back, and we are actually two more guys was with me, a friend of two are my friend, and we start going and come back and to the city and to like a dam that the water was over there, was in a mountain. But actually we wanted to go a long distance, and there was a religious town in Iran that about 400 kilometers, and you would go with the car. It looks like very smooth, but we didn't know that with the bike every little hills is counts. So we decided to one day to go to that religious town, and I talked to my father, and he said, absolutely you can go. There's no way you can make it. There's no way, you are too little. And so we decided to go regardless of what element is. And I put little rope in my finger, and my bedroom was close to the door, and the window, I left it over there, and my friend, two of them, around 4 o'clock, kind of pulled the rope and woke me up, and I had my bike the night before, leave it at their house, so my father and my mother would not know that I'm leaving. But I told my grandmother, who was sleeping to the next room, I said, I'm fixing to leave. So when I left around in the morning, tell my father that I have left. Anyway, we started going at 4 o'clock, very young bunch. They were maybe a year or 2 years older than me, but I was the youngest one. But I had the best bike, and they had the regular bike, like a 5-speed bike. And we start going, and around 10 o'clock in the morning, we got almost 40 kilometer or 50 kilometer, came out of Tehran, and so we had halfway almost over there, and we completely did not have no food, so we were really hungry, and I couldn't paddle no more. So I stopped, and those two, they said, there is a little gas station. If you just make it another 5 kilometers, we go over there. But for me, I could not even stand on my foot. So we were sitting on the side of the highway, and lots of people would travel to that religious town. And one of them stopped and said, y'all need help? And one of my friends told them that if you have some kind of food, he is very hungry, he can't paddle no more. So the people, they had butter and bread, and they gave it to me, and they gave some to them. And we had that butter bread that is like steak or good food. We had it, and we started paddling, and we got to the religious town around 12 o'clock, and we went to religious place and start praying and all that. And by the afternoon, the weather started getting bad, and started raining very hard, and I knew I have to come home, or else my father would go crazy. So we came kind of out of town in a road on the highway, and we didn't have money so much, very, very little. And anytime some car would come, we'd raise our hand like to get the ride. And finally, one tanker who take gasoline from that religious town to Tehran, he stopped and he said, what do y'all need? I said, we need to go to Tehran and we don't have any money. And he took our bike and put on top of the little rope, tied it, and we were driving with the guy. But the guy really didn't have a fast truck to go, because it was mostly hills. And so by the time we got to Tehran, it was around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we decided, the guy wanted to go another 50 kilometers to unload, because he had a really good time, and so did we. We talked, laughed, and stuff. And he said that if you all sit with me, I go unload it and bring you all back. I said, excuse me, there is no way I can go with you all. My parents is going to be going nuts. So please drop me off, and you two can go with him, which they did. But when I got back, going off the tanker, I see my father and my mother and my sister and brother. They're all out in the street looking, see where I'm gonna be and all that. Anyway, we made it back, and my father was very upset, but he was very happy I'm safe and sound, make it over there. That was one of the highlight of my 13 years old or 14 years old, that I had challenged myself and make it to that point. And this was, to me, was adventure at the early age. And little by little, around 14 years of age, we would ride the bike and go out of town, because there was no swimming pool around in Tehran, except two big ones that they had two swimming pool with bunch of kids, and they had one for the championship, which was you had to really learn how to swim very good before you can pass to go to that swim over there. And I wanted to swim, become a champion. The way I felt, I keep and my teacher teaching me how to swim, and finally we passed the test, and I had promoted to go to the big things, to big swimming pool. Big swimming pool was for practice, not learning. It was for practice and make a record how you go 200 meter and all that. And I was trying so hard to be beating everybody and trying to get, to become a champion at that time. And of course, it was a lot of people who knew how to swim better than me, but I didn't give up, and I kept going after my goal. And this sort of take me to the different, my ability to compete. Regardless what I would do, I wanted to be the best. But of course, always somebody is better than you. So this was the story that I had. It was a kind of highlight of that age for me, and that was very, very important at that time for me. And start going to high school and keep doing the stuff, and going to different sport. go to play soccer or have a tennis table and all that. And finally, around 15 years of age, my father was a cab driver, and I would go after school with him to collect the money, and he would take the passengers and drop it from A to B, and I would get the money, and that was his professional. And I started at that time. I had two brother and sister who got married and left the house, so I was the older one with five more brother and sister younger than me. And my father at that age started giving me some kind of responsibility, because I was holding the money, and he would tell me that anybody wanted to get some money for lunch or things, he would say, go ask him, he's the one that got the money. And I started having the responsibility for my sister and brother to give them money or to help them with homework, or and finally my father totally gave me out around age of 17, 18 when I graduated from high school. I was really the boss of the house and telling everybody what to do, or how much money you need to get and how much money you need to spend. And so I graduated from high school. The high school in Iran was very, very hard for people to graduate because the stuff that we have learned in Iran, actually they would teach in college in here. So it was such a big deal. You graduate from high school, and I came home and told my father, I'm graduate from high school, but over there is not like here that the parents paying so much attention to the school and take the kids to school. People over there is just, you are your own. You have to really yourself be self-disciplined. And I told my father I graduated, and he said, no, you didn't. You're only 10 years, you're on 10th grade. I said, no, Dad, I graduated and I'm finished. So in Iran, at that time, when you graduated, there are two universities that you can go, but to go to university is like climbing the mountain of Everest or big things, because you have to be very, very sharp, or had some influence in the government, or somebody that you know in the university that they would let you go in. Otherwise, the test that they were giving, it was just one of those impossible things to pass. So I knew that I don't have any chances for going to college over there or university. So I started helping my father driving a cab myself in the afternoon, and going to school until I decided to go to join the army, because you have to go 18 months. When you graduate from high school, you can go to service for 18 months, and out of that 18 months, 4 months you go to the base and you become a soldier and you get training, all that. But there are 14 more months. After you finish the 4 months, you go. At that time, the Shah of Iran had a program for the people who graduate from high school to go to different location of the Iran, which was very, very far away from the cities and all that. and you would go over there, try to teach the kids over there, educate the kids from first grade to fourth grade. That's 14 months, two session of the things. And Iran was a very big place, and the south was very dry and hot, and the north was close to Caspian Sea, and it was beautiful. It was like a jungle and mountain and trees and all that. So I choose the one that going to the close to the Caspian Sea, and when I decided to go to that village, you go with uniform, but people at the village, they didn't know who you are as far as how much power you got, but they would treat you with respect because they think you were coming from army and you have so much power, so you would go. But we didn't have any power except to be a teacher. So a lot of people would take advantage of this situation and become a monster in that in those villages. But for me, I went to the village and a small village, about 272 people the population was, and it was 3 miles away from the little city from they call it Amol. Of course, it was close to Caspian Sea, and people would travel from Tehran summertime, go to Caspian Sea, like they go to the beach over here, they would go over there to the beach. So my place was, as far as the weather and as far as the scenery was beautiful, but as far as living, it was one of those impossible places to live, because these people didn't know how to live there. It like a one room. They had it was their bedroom, it was their kitchen, it was the guest room, and everything was in that one room. And when they wanted to cook, they had the woods like you fix in a charcoal, and they cook on top of that fire. And imagine there is no window and no entry except one a small door to go in, and what kind of weather would be inside. You couldn't hardly breathe, but they were so used to it. It was living them for ages. And so for me, coming from Tehran, going to that place was one of the difficult things to be. So I started doing my job, which was trying to, they had a little church. I took the church and put kind of, not a carpet, but like a blanket on the floor, and started gathering some small kids and try to teach them how to write, how to read, and all that. But the main things was that little town. I cannot believe what I have seen on those in that village. The way that they would take a bath, it would like a little pool, and the natural water from the river would come to a small place, and they would heat it with the charcoal, and then it would go to the another things, and they would go in there and they would bath. Imagine that all these people, they were not clean, and they were not sanitation and all. So what they would do, they would go in there, they thought they taking a bath, but most of them had diseases. They had so many sores in their head and so many sores in their eyes, because that water is just so bad that I couldn't even imagine that anybody would go. But that's how they were living. So for me, looking at these things, and it just I had to do something. So I decided to close down that bath, public bath, and tell them that they need to come sit down and we need to talk. And some of them were against me, and they were trying to talk to the people at the village that don't listen to him, don't we have had these things for ages. Now he wants to come from city and tell us what to do. But they didn't know that the idea that I had was so good for them that like this. So I gathered the most people that older people at the village, and I told them that I wanted to make a public bath, that you all have to take a shower, not sitting in like a jacuzzi, go sit in it and everybody jump in, and some of them pee, some of them could be nasty and all that. So I said, you all have working so hard, and they would grow rice in that village, and they had income out of that village, and most of them had money. They had money, but they didn't know what to do with the money, and they thought that they had saved the money. And so I gathered all of them and told them that we need to appoint one of you all that you all trust, because I don't want to touch your money. I don't want to be responsible for your money, but I want somebody that you all choose and trust. Give him like $3,000 at that time. $3,000 was a lot of money back then. So they collected the money, and one person, I just talked to one person out of that. So we went to the city, about 3 miles that was over there, and we hired the guy that doing construction, and I told him what kind of bath, public bath I need, and I had 4 installed for a shower and a place to sit down and wash themselves, and concrete on the floor and all that. Anyway, they built that public bathroom, and when I went to look at it, the gentleman that fixed those things, repair all these things and all that, was used only very narrow bricks between the install, and if you touched it, it would fall. So I kicked most of the things, and I told the guy, you have to start all over, this is not good. Anyway, we fixed that public bath in a beautiful shape, and they come to me and they said, because of you, you have to come first to try this bath, because we'd like to give you that honor to for a grand opening. What I didn't know that they used kind of like a cement or something on the wall that has fresh and had gas CO2, and I go in there and they start trying to wash my body, and in maybe 5-10 minutes when I got there, I passed out. I passed out in completely. They took me out fast and put on my horses and tried to go to city, take me to the doctor or hospital. And because they put me on a horse, about maybe 5-10 minutes we were on the horse, and I get fresh air and I become aware of where I'm going. I said, what in the world you are taking me? What is this horse? What am I going? And they said, oh, you're lucky to be alive. You like this, and you were almost passed out. You almost died. And we decided, I said, I'm okay right now, so please stop and then take me back to the village. And this was one of those things that it was very important for those people and for me. And My next project, of course, was going to town and come back. They would go around the farms instead of the 3 miles. They would go maybe 5 miles, going like going rectangular and go back to the other. They didn't want to go through the middle of the rice field. So my next things was to build a road for these people, because I myself, if I wanted to come to the city and come back, uh, I would fall so much in the water, and I would not know how to get there, because these people are local and they knew even at night how to get to town without going through the mud and the water. And I built the road same way I built the bathroom, a public bath. I gathered everybody, but they did not want to go through the making a road, because they would lose part of their farm as far as rice goes. But for me, I told them, y'all don't know until it's fixed, then y'all see that is how important it is, this road. So meanwhile, I was teaching the kids during the day, and at night I was planning to do stuff for these people, and I fixed the road finally, gathered everybody, and they cut the tree, made the bridge and all that, and we had the beautiful road that at the end of my service, when my time was up, my father would drive all the way inside the village and pick me up and go, and I was so happy that these people have a place. And because I've done this over there, it was such a unique things. Other village, neighbor village, they all would come and say, can you come help us too? I said, I'm sorry, I'm finished my term, I'm going back to Tehran. And this was one of the highlights of my being in the army. I had another project for these people, and the people who let me stay with them during these 14 months, as I said, they had one room that everything was doing in that room, kitchen, sitting, bring the guests there at night over there. So I was along with them, but since I came from Tehran and had a building and different room and living room and kitchen and all that, and these people had that money, but they didn't know how to use it. So I told my landlord that you trust me, right? And he said, yeah. I said, I have something I want to do for you, and that you would be really thankful. He said, what? I said, I want to build you a house, build you a room in right next to this one that you have. And he said, so what do you want me to do? I said, I need you come one time when I go to Tehran, you come with me, and I want you go shopping with you and try to do what we can do to change this. So I just took the gentleman with me and to Tehran, and take him like a not a junkyard, but somehow somewhere it would be look like that. I cannot describe those places that. And they had used the window, and they had used the carpet, they had used the door and all that. So I started buying stuff from his money. Of course, he would pay for it. I would just tell him buy this and that. So we gathered what I needed to do, and I brought it back to the village. And I called the guy that who was a builder, and they didn't have any bricks in that little village, but they had mud, and most of their houses, first of all, was above the ground because close to water, the ground was completely soaked with water, so you couldn't build the house uh, on the ground. So they would have to go about maybe 4 or 5 feet above the ground and uh, build the house. So I built with mud, and I also put the window, bigger room, much bigger room, and put a big window on it, around 2-3 window around this room, and take them after that to town and start buying some kind of carpet, cheap carpet, not very expensive, but brought carpet and carpeted that room, and also take him to places like Home Depot or somewhere. Try to have those gas grill that they cook, like they go hunting, stuff like that. So I bought some of those, and I told them, y'all don't need to mix charcoal to cook. This is gas, and when you run out, you just go to the town and buy yourself a tank of gas, and you cook right here. No smoking, nothing, and no the gas, CO2 or anything, or smoke you can hardly see inside the room. So I started all this, and they had a balcony, of course, put gas and stuff outside the room, and this room was so beautiful that you would see it, and it was all tree around the tree. The village was full of the tree and grasses and water, river and stuff. So you would sit over there and you would enjoy just every second of it, that how beautiful this place is. So when I did that, people, their relative from another village would come see over there and say, wow, how did you do that and stuff? And my landlord would say, well, he tried to do this for us because he's been here 14 months, he's part of our life, and I really felt that I'm part of their life. I started learning their language because even though they were in Iran, but every corner of every state of Tehran you would go through, they have different language. So I learned their language, and I would talk to them in their language, and they would love to see me talking because hardly I couldn't talk like they did, but they would just sometimes laugh when I would talk. And this village become very famous village around that neighborhood, and to me, I felt that I have accomplished more than what the king wanted me to accomplish. All I was supposed to do in that little village to teach. And here I fixed them road, and I fixed them public bath, and I fixed them house, their house, and little by little people would got information, and they would go try to imitate this house in their village, and my name become a very famous name over there, and they put a big board by when you walk into the village. They had a big board, and my name and the year that I was there and what I did. And even though when I finished my term over there, this family become my family, and I would travel maybe every month, every 2 months, just go over there and stay one night and talk to them and laugh with them and come back. And some of them would come to Tehran, where I lived, and they would come visit us over there. But when they would come, they would bring 100 pounds bag of rice. They would bring all kinds of stuff that they had for us as a souvenir, bring it over there. And for me, at this time that I am thinking and talking about this, it makes me wonderful feeling that I have done something for these people, and I've done something for me. It was a challenge for me to make these people to realize that with little money they could change their lifestyle and have a beautiful, beautiful place to live. And this was one of the highlights of my service in my country, and I'm very, very happy that be able to do for people to do stuff like this. And don't know why, but I had to be different when I was back then. Every person went to army, they would just go teach, and some of them, of course, would cheat them and get their money and run off. And for me, I wanted to do something. Even I left over there, my name will be there forever, and generation after generation still remember that, you know, they would go see my family in Tehran, even though when I came to United States long time ago, and they still had relation and contact with each other. And I think if everybody would try to do anything for anybody, would be one of the fantastic things that would help other people to live better. And also, you would have a good conscience that you didn't waste your time. You actually did something that you be proud of it. And even I'm talking about it right now, I feel like I'm there right now, and I see every person, the face in front of me, and what they did at night. They would invite me to their house, and they would cook for me, and they would be so happy that I go to their house and have dinner with them. And this was very, very important for me. And thank you all very much to watch this video, and I appreciate. And if you like it, thumbs up, and if you like to hear more, just subscribe it, and I will talk more about that. Thank you.